Marcos administration's economic managers made the rounds in two of Europe's largest economies to make their pitch to foreign investors days after the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. We discussed the Philippine Economic Briefing second leg in London with British Ambassador to the Philippines, Laure Beaufils. Ambassador, great to have you here in the studio.
Rico, great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, economic managers from Davos are now in London.
That's right.
The briefing just finished a few hours ago.
That's right.
What was accomplished?
Well, I think it was a really successful briefing, actually. It was a great opportunity to present to 250 investors and private sector actors and representatives from financial institutions, present to them what is the state of the economy of the Philippines, what are the opportunities for investments, what is the government of the Philippines doing to attract British investments in key sectors. And I think from a British perspective, that's incredibly useful and important. It's important because there are so many financial institutions in the city, in London, so many private sector actors. But also from a UK perspective, we still don't know the Philippines as well as we should, in a way. So this is an opportunity to reintroduce this fundamental market to investors in the Philippines, in the UK, sorry. Many of them already familiar with the Philippines.
Yeah, because, Ambassador, we've already had a long-standing relationship between the Philippines and the UK. We're now going in our 77th year.
That's right.
This 2023. Are there question marks on what investors think about perception about the Philippines, about corruption, ease of doing business, and, the cost of doing business here, especially energy?
Yeah, so I think that, all investors are always looking for the same thing, right? They're looking for a conducive business environment where there's predictability in terms of regulations, where there's transparency, the rule of law, sanctity of contract. So the ease of doing business, all of that, that's almost a given. What I think investors are also looking at right now is what are the measures that the government has put in place to attract investors, to make investing easier. And so all the initiatives that were taken towards the end of 2021 or in 2022 are only just starting to bear fruit. Yeah. So I'm talking about some of the really significant legislations, so the Retail Liberalization Act,
yes.
The Foreign Investment Act, the Public Sector Investment Act. These are really critical. And of course, more recently, the decision to lift the cap on foreign investments in renewable energy. So for the administration to set this out to investors and set out key examples of investment opportunities is really, really important at this point in time.
But the amendments, Ambassador, to these key investment acts were already approved more than a year ago. Are we already seeing those substantial foreign direct investments into the country? Why are the British investors still waiting on the sidelines?
Well, I wouldn't say they're waiting on the sidelines. So just last week, we had two great success stories here in the Philippines, right? So we had the purchase by Diageo of Don Rum, which is really exciting. So £225 million. And we have the joint venture between Inchcape and Cat's Motors. So these are two massive investments that signify that actually the British private sector is already watching the Philippines and all over it.
And more to come, I'm sure.
But more to come. And that's the point. We're ambitious in the UK, and the government of the Philippines is ambitious. And we want our investment to go up. We want to be amongst your top investors. We want British investors to be aware of the opportunity. And the opportunity is there. The size of the market, obviously. English-speaking population, quite big demographic dividend, which is going to be really hopeful, really strong, ethical workforce, and an entry point into ASEAN. So there's a real opportunity, and the market is not saturated here, unlike perhaps in some other parts of the region. So we want to capitalize on this opportunity. We want more British investments, and that's what this year is about.
And apart from that, did the economic managers also discuss the proposed Maharlika investment fund? And what did the British investors think about it?
So they presented that. That was presented this morning. As you rightly said, Rico, this happened in the last hour or two. So I know
it's
that
fresh news.
It's fresh
coming
news
from the ambassador.
And as you can imagine, I was on my phone trying to get the latest for this interview. But what I don't know is the exact response to that fund, but I know that it was part of the presentation that the Secretary of Finance gave. But it's beyond that. It's really, really beyond that. There's a lot of focus and interest in the UK on opportunities in renewable energy, offshore wind in particular, where we have great expertise. We've got a lot of onshore and onshore wind. Sustainable green infrastructure in support of build, where we also have a wide suite of investors and private sector actors that are wanting to be part of the success story.
And Ambassador, we've seen the president having 8 overseas trips in the last 7 months of his presidency. He's gone to Indonesia, he's gone to Singapore, he's been to Brussels, China, and recently Davos. And you mentioned a lot of foreign investment opportunities and interests in the Philippines. Is the president going to make a trip to the UK to attract more of these investments and potentially pledges and meet up with the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak?
Well, we would love to see the president in the UK. And in fact, small scoop, he will be getting an invitation. In fact, we've already sent him a save the date for the coronation of His Majesty the King, which will take place on the 6th of May. So whether he chooses to travel or not, I don't know. He will have lots of invitations from all over the world.
Yeah.
But, should he come to the UK, it's about investment because of the power and the size of the City of London. But there's lots of other things that we want to be discussing with him because our relationship is growing, it's expanding and deepening. And in fact, when the economic team was in London this week, we were also able to ensure that they had meetings with our Department of Trade, with our Foreign Office, with the Prime Minister's trade envoy. And indeed, as we speak right now, they're having a meeting with some of our government colleagues on development finance opportunities, so using British government tools and all the levers we have at our disposal, including export finance, to contribute to increasing our trade. And our trade is already back to pre-pandemic levels. We want it to go to higher levels than it's ever been before, and I believe it's possible to see that this year.
And Ambassador, we were talking about ease of doing business, the cost of energy, and legislative guarantees, right? Which are very important to investors. But when I spoke with the President on Monday at the Malacanang Palace, together with other broadcast journalists, he said transparency and accountability are not important issues for investors. Do you agree?
I think he also said what's important is ease of doing business and the cost of energy.
That's right.
So I agree, certainly ease of doing business is absolutely essential. Cost of doing business and the cost of energy is essential for businesses too.
But transparency, good governance, and accountability is also very important.
I would say that, yes, indeed, the rule of law, the sanctity of contracts, all of these are also important to investors.
And 2023 is also an important year because it's the 77th year of bilateral relations. What can we expect in terms of activities from the embassy?
So we've got lots in store for you, Rico. Maybe I'll start on the kind of the economic side, given that we're talking about that. So in March, we're going to be doing the Great British Festival in partnership with the British Chamber, which is a brilliant chamber doing lots of work in partnership with our embassy. And that hasn't happened since 2018. And it's about giving the opportunity for British products to be seen and tested and appreciated by the population here. So giving them a platform, but also a platform to celebrate British culture, music, dancing, films. So it's going to be a bit of a cultural and a bit of a trade festival, and that's why we've called it festival, and we have really high expectations, and we're delighted that we're doing this again for the first time in 5 years.
I can't wait for my favorite fish and chips.
Oh, yes.
And my favorite British music.
Which one is your favorite British music?
Well, in the 1980s, you have the likes of Culture Club, Madness.
I love them as well.
Ah, yes.
But there'll be some fun stuff, so please do join us. That's the last weekend of March. And then on the perhaps more serious side of things, trade side, we're launching this year our new trading scheme that replaces the EU's GSP+. As you know, we've left the European Union, so we now have our own trading scheme, which is called the Developing Countries Trading Scheme, which builds on the GSP+, but provides for simplified and improved terms. So it has added, for example, 150 products lines that can now go into the UK tariff-free. And as a result of that, 99% of Filipino goods can go into the UK tariff-free. And it's simplified rules of origin. So that's exciting. That's the trade side. Lots on the other side of the house. The coronation, we'll do something here on the 6th of May. And of course, lots of other areas, for example, science and tech, where we're launching new initiatives, maritime security. It's going to be an exciting year. We're growing as an embassy.
An exciting year indeed for the UK and the Philippines in 2023.
Yes.
Ambassador, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
joining
having
us on The Final Word.
Thank you.
British Ambassador to the Philippines, Laure Beaufils.